It's 2026 and USA and China are still locked in the most important rivalry and the biggest rivalry in the 21st century. This is a war, but not with bombs, not with guns. This war is with trade, influence, technology, and money. Welcome to Mohammed Explain, where we break down power, where we break down geopolitics, and where we break down finance without any propaganda and without any shouting or any noise. After the World War ended in 1945, the USA reshaped the world order. Then there's what they call the Bretton Woods. This was where the USA made the US dollars the global financial currency. This was when they created the IMF, the World Bank, the financial institution which the world will be using today. While the USA were busy doing all these things, the Chinese were experiencing civil war. They were invaded by the Japanese, that is between 1937 to 1945, and they are experiencing decades of economic collapse. In fact, China was totally isolated from the world until in 1978. One man called Deng Xiaoping, I don't know how to pronounce the name very well, he changed everything in 1978. He then introduced economic reforms, special economic zones, foreign investments, and cities like Shenzhen, which was once a fishing village, now became a mega city. In 2001, China now joined World Trade Organization, which is the WTO, and that was when everything changed for them. Then immediately, American companies like Apple, Nike, Walmart, they all started moving to China. They all started building their factories in China. Even General Motors also moved to China and they became the world's factory. By 2010, China now overcame Japan as the second largest economy in the world. And by 2021, China's GDP reached $17.7 trillion, and that was when USA started taking note of them very, very well. To USA, this was not about manufacturing alone, this is about competing with them. In 2021, Donald Trump, which was the US president as at then introduced a trade war with China. He imposed tariffs on them. He imposed tariffs on $250 billion worth of goods on China. But China didn't just sit and watch them. China also responded back. The goal of the USA was clear. What they want to do is to reduce China's influence, to slow down their growth, and to reduce China's trade surplus. But the trade war and the tariffs didn't slow China down. Instead, they start analyzing and re-strategizing. Meanwhile, in technology, the rivalry became very, very worse because in 2019, the USA blacklisted Huawei. If you could remember then, the China and USA, they were all fighting on how to get the 5G. They were racing on who to get the 5G first, and Huawei was the first company to get the 5G, and it is a Chinese company. Then in 2022, Joe Biden, he was the president then, he then banned the export of chips to China. You may be asking what kind of chips. This is not potato chips. I'm talking about electronic chips. Because it is with these chips that the China used to make all their technology. And there are three major companies in the world that makes this chip. One is the TSMC, the other one is Intel, and the last one is Nvidia. This TSMC, they control about 90% of the chips in the world. Your smartphones, your computers, the military softwares, they all use these chips. Even the AI which you use in creating videos, they all make use of these chips. And this leads me to what I want to talk about, which is Taiwan. Taiwan is just 160 kilometers away from China. Taiwan is just separated by a water, and this Taiwan is one of the most strategic islands on the earth. Why? Because 90% of the chips which we use in electronics, in military, these chips are used in military softwares, they are used in devices, they are used in your phones, they are used in computers, they are used in almost everything that you see today. And 90% of them come from Taiwan. While all this are going on, the Chinese, they are increasing their spending on military. The Chinese military spending rose from $20 billion in 1990 to $230 billion in 2004. So the US still spends far more than them. The US spends about $850 billion annually. And the reason why the US spends so much is because of Taiwan, the Japanese, and also the North Korea. Rather, should I say the South Korea. The US spends heavily on Taiwan because they are protecting Taiwan from China. China has plans to invade Taiwan. And because of these chips which I talked about earlier, USA does not want to lose Taiwan to China. And Taiwan is very, very important to USA because that's where they produce their military chips, their satellite chips, their phones, their technology. That is where their chips comes from. Meanwhile, China want to invade Taiwan because they see Taiwan as part of China. So they want to integrate Taiwan back into China, which the USA do not want. They spend heavily on Japan because they are also protecting Japan from China. And also they spend heavily on South Korea. You know, South Korea and North Korea, they are enemies. And the USA and North Korea, they are also enemies. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. But China, they are not after military dominance. All they just want is economic dominance. Meanwhile, Africa, they are caught in the middle. Africa, they are just neutral in all of these things that are happening. They are collaborating with both China and USA. That in 2013, the China launched the Road Belt Initiative. They started building roads and railways in Kenya, Nigeria, and Djibouti. Talking about Djibouti, there are a lot of things going on in Djibouti too between the USA and China. That place is also one of the most important places on earth. It's just a small place, but it is low-key very, very important. I'm going to talk about that in one of my videos. The USA have advantage in this war because they have the dollar dominance, the military alliance with so many countries, huge military spending. But meanwhile, the China too, they also have advantage because of their large manufacturing base, their population and long-term planning. Everything that is happening between China and USA is affecting you and I indirectly. They affect our job, they affect our currency, they affect our government, they affect every day of our lives. So understanding what is happening between them is no longer optional. It is a must for you to know. Thank you very much for watching and kindly subscribe to Mohammed Explains for more videos like this.